I am IR Aziz, and my friend here.
I'm Faiz.
We are going to continue with our GST presentation for the GST India, how to implement GST in your company operation. If you have followed our previous presentation, you will see that we have gone through some of the transaction, but some of the transaction we have not gone through. So during this presentation, we are going to focus on the interstate GST transaction. Before that, we are going to revisit again the GST. The GST will start 1st of July, and you must wait for the official government announcement for this. And we are going to practice GST accounting using GST accounting software for free now. The software name is Office Central. So for you to get your free username and password, you go to the www.officecentral.co.in. From there, you can see this screen, and then go to the bottom. You can see the practice your GST accounting for free now. You click that. Once you click that, this red button at the bottom, then you are going to go to another page, which is the page to get your free trial license. This license is 3 months or 4 months license. So you actually can start using the Office Central accounting software to practice your GST. And once you get your username and password, you can see on the right your name, email, and password. Your email will be your username. The password, the one that you put there, will be the password that you will use for you to enter the Office Central. The how to get this free trial actually is in a previous webinar, the one that we presented. You can go to the website and look at the webinar. And once you get into the login page, you go to the officecenter.co.in and then click login. You can get into this login page. Your username is your email address, and your password is the password, the one that you put in during the registration to get your free user license. Okay, so you put in your username, you put in your password, then you can actually get into the system. This is the front page of the system. Once you get into the system, this is your front page, and you can start immediately to use the Office Central accounting system. It is very easy to use. So as a review, remember input tax. Input tax is the tax that you pay when you purchase goods or services from your supplier. Output tax is the tax that you charge to your customer when you sell your product or services. This output tax is actually you collect the tax on behalf of your government, and basically you need to return back the tax collected to the government. Of course, you can minus the input tax you submit to the government, but there are some rules for that input tax, which you will discover later on. And you also will understand the central GST, the GST that you pay to the central, and then the state GST, the GST that you pay to the state governments, and then the integrated GST. This is for the interstate GST transaction. Today we are going to focus on the interstate GST transaction. So if I go to the system, then you are going to see the. Okay, now I'm going to go to the system, and here, and you are going to see the page. So Faiz will go through the whole process of how to log in. So now you have the username and you have the password. Then you can just put in your username and password and then log into the system. Click login, and then you are going to log into the system. We have 2 demo accounts, so we are going to enter into one of the demo account. If you only have 1 account, then you are going to only have C1. But in this case, we have 2 demo accounts. Just click on. Then you are going to get into the system. This is the front page of the Office Central. Office Central have many modules. One of them is the accounting, but if you go to the left, you can see that human resource, payroll, accounting, finance, customer relationship management, procurement, point of sale, distribution, and global configuration. You'll see that there are many modules, but today we are going to focus only on the accounting module. You click the accounting module. Now you can see all the modules under the accounting module. So I just want to remind you that those who joined our previous webinar, you can see that when you actually can use the wizard to set up your accounting system. You click the wizard, and then you can see that the wizard will take you from the setting up of your company, setting up your accounting period, setting up your accounting rule, setting up your chart of account, and add the detail to your chart of account. So, but this wizard has been covered in the previous webinar. So you go to our website and search for the wizard for the to how to use the wizard for the accounting system. Now you already have your database, and I just want to go to the chart of account, and then I'll show you what data is already there. Look at the chart of account and look at the chart of account, and then look at your current asset, and from there you can see your debtors, your customers. Yeah, we already put in a few names inside your debtors. For example, there are two customers inside. Of course, after you upload all your customers, you may have hundreds and hundreds of customers there. But for this demo purpose, we have two debtors inside that, and we also have two creditors. Can you look at the creditors? This is your suppliers, and you can see that we already put in two creditors there. So you can, after you upload your data, you may have a lot of creditors inside your system, but you can browse into your chart of account later on. But now we are going to focus on the transaction for the interstate transaction. So for this particular demo, the company itself is registered in Tamil Nadu, and we are going to do transaction with another customer or supplier from another state, right? Okay, now we are going to start with the revenue first. Issue invoice. Let's say we issue invoice to a customer in outside the state. So we already put in the name just now. So the name is the Nova Life Healthcare from Karnataka. So this is interstate because we are registered in Tamil Nadu, and we are having business with a customer in Karnataka. So let's say we just put in we're selling something to them, selling certain product. And then let's say we are selling 3,000 rupee worth of product. Okay, and then the tax is we select the standard rated, and we are assuming that standard rated is 10% for state and 10% for the central GST. Remember the definition of the destination principle for the GST, correct? If you remember that, if you don't remember, please refer back to the previous webinar. The GST is the destination state GST. Okay, now we have this transaction and click submit. And now the system will start doing the accounting transaction. You go to the bottom. And now, for example, this is your general sales. You can put in anything what's relevant to your company, but for the time for this demo, we just say that this is general sales. Then you can see that there is the central tax and then the state tax, and the state tax is Karnataka. And then you just need to save. Okay, so that's it. So that is your issue invoice. Let's say you want to do because of certain thing. Let's say you want to give price reduction to your customer, And then let's say you want to give a price reduction of 300 rupee, about 10%. But under the GST environment, you cannot just throw away the invoices, the one that you have issued. You must issue a credit note in order for you to change the price of your invoice. But let's come back to our issue invoice transaction just now. We are assuming that there'll be two stages of authority inside your company. One is the account clerk, the one that will do the original transaction. And then there is an accountant that will approve the transaction. So you go to the transaction and then go to your location and then click the active, and the system will tell you all the active transaction. Now you can see that your 3,000 rupee transaction is already there, 3,000 plus the GST, 3,600 total. Now you just need to approve it. Click approve. Okay, now the transaction is already approved. Then it can go to the list. So if you look at the issued invoice, then you actually can see the transaction is already into the approved list. Okay, so if you see the detail, then you actually can see the transaction, the one that you have done previously. Let's say now we want to, because of certain thing, you are giving price reduction to your customer. So you need to use credit note, issue credit note. You cannot just throw away the invoice and then reissue a new invoice. It is not correct. So let's say you reduce by 300 rupee, you click the issue credit note. And then let's say this is the credit note. And you issue the credit note of 300 rupee. Just discount, yeah. And use the standard rated. Yep. And save. That's it. I mean, that's how easy it is for you to actually issue the credit note. So now you go to the accounting section, and you can see that the transaction is for general sales, and the tax transaction is at the bottom. So let's say we just accept this and save. It's already inside the, and like before, you approve the transaction, click the list the active transaction, and you approve it. So you can see that transaction was 300 rupee, and then approve the transaction. Now the transaction is already inside the accounting system. The same thing that you do for your expenses. So for example, you receive invoice and then you add new. And then let's say you receive invoice for 2,000 rupee, for example, from your supplier from another state, Karnataka, for example. And let's say the invoice is 2,000 rupee. Yeah. Then select the tax, which is the standard rated, and then submit. So that's it. So that's how you do the receive invoice transaction. And then, of course, now you can do the accounting transaction at the bottom. Let's say this is an overhead, and you can see that there's a debit and credit transaction is already being prepared for you by the all right. So and then the only thing you need to do now is just click the submit button. So if you have, for example, okay, you need to do the same thing as before. You need to approve the transaction. Just click the transaction, and then find the transaction, make sure that it's correct, and then approve the transaction. Okay. So now you can see the transaction there. Okay, so now you can actually do the same thing for the receive credit note. So your supplier will not issue you another invoice if for some reason there's some price change, correct? Let's say the because of certain thing, your supplier give you price reduction. Let's say you receive a credit note of, in this case, maybe 200 rupee credit note. So you go to the system, 200 rupee credit note, and select the standard rated, and then save. And you can see, you go down to the accounting transaction, you can see that the received credit note transaction is already been suggested for you. Let's say we accept the suggestion and we save. And now you already done the issue invoice, issue credit note, receive invoice, receive credit note for the interstate transaction. So you can see all the transaction and you approve all the transaction and it goes into the accounting system. So if you go to the report, now you actually can see the impact of the transaction for your report. So look at the GSTR1 report, which is your supply listing, and click that and generate the report from, let's say, 1st of April until end of April. Okay, and then click the report. And then now you actually, the system is generating the report for the GSTR1 for April. Of course, you can see that in the previous webinar, we have generated another report. In the real life, you should actually delete the report, the one that is not correct. So you can delete that, the previous report. So now you are just waiting for the new report. So you can download, and so you actually can show the report. Okay, that is the GSTR1 report generated by your system. Notice, okay, notice the customer in Karnataka and the various GST, and also notice the credit note, the one that you have given to your customer is there. So you can go down, just show you the next one is, okay, you can go down to the forms. All right. Okay. And then you can, next one will show you how to generate GSTR2 report. This is your purchase listing. And let's say generate for April, 1st of April until end of April. Generate. And then you notice that we have generated the previous report in the previous webinar. So you can actually, in the real life, you should delete the report, the one that is not correct. So you just, inside your system, you should only have one correct report. So the system is generating the GSTR2 now report, and then you should be able to see the report immediately after this. Okay, so you download the report, and then now this is the report, GSTR2. Okay, 2000. And then you actually had received the credit note from your supplier. So you can see the report that the first two lines was transacted during the previous webinar. So go down and show the various report. Okay, detail of credit note. Okay, so basically you have generated GSTR1, GSTR2, and GSTR3 is a combination of the supply listing and purchase listing. If you click GSTR3, you should be able to see the GSTR3 uh, already generated. Are you okay? You are going to unfinalize the previous report, and then we are going to finalize the latest report. Okay, delete the previous report, and then now you are going to process the GSTR 3 report and process. We we make sure that there's only one GSTR 3 report inside the system, because otherwise it'll be very confusing between you and the government later on, which is the one that is the latest one. Now we are processing the GSTR3. Click process, and then you should be able to get the report for the how much is the tax for the supply, how much tax for the purchase, and then you can actually see the finalize it, and then that's it. You can see the detail of the GST report. So this GSTR3 report is supposed to be the same as the GSTR3 report generated by the government. And if it is not the same, means that you need to study in more detail. Maybe uh, certain transaction is not uploaded to the GSTR3. You need to compare and find out why. But if everything is correctly done, then you should be able to see your GSTR3, and the GSTR3 generated by the government should be exactly the same. So, all right, so you have gone through the transaction for the interstate GST transaction during this webinar. You have gone through the transaction for the within the state GST transaction in the previous webinar. Basically, you can just try a combination of within the state and interstate and all that, and do your transaction. We have given you quite a number of instruction on the webinar on how to do things. So you can visit our website www.officecenter.co.in and look at the various support video, so for you to be able to do your GST transaction. So thank you for being with us, and myself, Aziz, and my friend Faiz. Thank you for joining our webinar. Thank you. See you in the next webinar. Thanks.